Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Expert Advice 103. I was allowing a few people to enter. Here we go. We start having some more in here. So do know that this session is recorded, so you can always refer back to it if you go to the ArkACRAO virtual fair website for this year. And before we begin, as we allow some more people to jump on, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Whitney Hall, and I represent Southern Arkansas University's Office of Admissions, where I am the Director of University Outreach in the Texarkana area, as well as the Enrollment Analyst. I've had many years of experience on the road, just about 10 is this my 10th year to do it, and I have much of that within the scholarship awarding process. I served as the coordinator and was over all the institutional academic awarding processes, as well as generating those data sheets and helping determine with our administration what direction we might want to go, or giving advice, anything like that. So I was served as that liaison for a lot of the students as well as counselors. So I have much of my experience in that area. So with that, I've been super involved with ArkACRAO over the years in multiple capacities, as well as the SACRO organization, which is our overall regional portion of the United States. Also do a lot of philanthropic work in my community. I live and work for the university out of the Texarkana area, and so I'm on the road a lot, not so much this year with COVID, but we are definitely making do and doing a lot of things virtual. So I'm really excited that you can attend this. I'm excited to share with you some of my knowledge that I've learned over the years, what works, what doesn't, and just kind of be an open mind about this. I could go on and on and on more than 30 minutes about this particular topic. But I wanted to put it in a way that you would really comprehend and understand how can this benefit you as a graduating senior, if not junior. So thank you, students, for joining, as well as fellow colleagues and any counselors and parents. We welcome you, and if you have any questions, feel free to post them in our chat right over there to the right. You can also put right there my text, a text out to me. I gave you my personal cell. I'll be happy to address any of those at the end. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing the screen. And I'm going to put it in this particular format so that we can actually see it a little bit better when you see the zoom off to the side. So keep that in mind. So one of the biggest things that we need to address is exactly how we stand out with a great resume and essay and interview, is that this isn't necessarily going to get you your ultimate result. This is going to get you through that front door. So keep that in mind whenever you're looking throughout this and coming up with any questions along the way. It all depends on what area of your life you're in. I've tried my best to put this presentation in a way that reflects you as a graduating senior and trying to advance into the collegiate world, or whether you're starting your first job or anything like that. So keep that in mind. So one of the first things that we're going to touch base on is exactly what do we need when it comes to that perfect resume. Okay. Let's see. It's trying to go. I apologize. Let's see. There we go. Alrighty, I do love memes right off to the bat, so you will see a lot of those. One of the biggest factors that you need to realize is your space. Lots of times you're thinking, oh, I have so much information and I need to put it all on one page the best that I can. That is kind of true in some cases. We know that as graduating seniors that you don't have a ton of professional experience that's somebody within a field of maybe 10 or 20 years. So whenever you realize you need to include your relevant coursework, any leadership or extracurricular activities, those are some of the key things that we as people who are looking at your resume are really wanting to see. The big thing is that you need to put this in a specific order. It's going to be a reverse chronological order. So we need to start from what's happening right now and go backwards. So it's how we're going to view it is, what are you doing right now? And that's one of the key factors is whenever you're using your space, there's certain ways that you're going to want to do this, because it's very true. We're only going to look at it for a couple of seconds before we realize, is it worth reading? So you want to catch them right off the bat and make sure that you're putting everything in a manner that is wise and into your best ability. See, the next thing you need to consider is integrating a consistent format option. Guys, there's more than just Microsoft Word out there. There's lots of different templates for you to build and transform from just the basic to a superior opportunity for your resume. One of the biggest things is that I'm looking for when I'm looking at some of these resumes or these essays is your font style. It needs to be consistent all the way through, and it needs to be readable. I get it, you really want to stand out with that really cool font that you saw or anything like that, and you want to make it unique, but I have to be able to read it. And so one of those things that you might want to stick to is going to be more of like Arial font, New Times Roman, Helvetica. We need to keep it in something I can read too. 10 to 12 font size is a really good one to start with. You don't really want to go as under 10. I know I've been a victim of that, but sometimes if you can really try and do that, you need to realize that there's some line spacing involved, some bulleted lists, dates. They all need to say the same thing. And so that's why you're going to break it down in specific section headers, anything like that, that's really going to make it a clean and easy read, because we should be able to point on there exactly the areas that we're wanting to touch base on. Again, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to post them in the chat. Right now, you need to realize too that tailoring your experience is the key. Yes, unfortunately these days you have to have experience before you get experience. That's what it feels like, at least. So you're really hoping that somebody's going to take a chance on your resume. And one of the biggest things on how to do that is portraying yourself as a well-rounded candidate. I want you to step out and think just beyond your basic everyday things. If you're involved in football, or if you're involved in music, or you have a side job, that's great, but go into details. Were you the shift leader at one of those? Were you first chair when it came to the band? Did your team go to state? Did you in itself were named MVP or captain of the team? These are things that are really important. We need to know how long you've been involved in that. So really take a time to sit down, chart all these out, because it's going to take some time to really go through and emphasize all that. The next thing is you need to incorporate all the strengths without embellishing. Now what denotes a strength? I love that one right up to the top left. If you see that, if you're listing your strengths, it says selfies. And on a resume, no, that's not what we're talking about. We need to list attractive character traits that are really going to bring that reader in. I need you to market yourself as a good cultural fit. If you're looking for a specific college and we're trying to figure out exactly what areas might be something that we're interested in, that's going to be really key to making you stand out. But the biggest thing is making sure that you're sincere from start to finish. Whatever you do, do not try and lie on your resume to get the job. What if you actually get the job and then you realize, oh gosh, I didn't have any of this experience? Then not only you're not going to look good or anything like that, but it just shows that your integrity was definitely in jeopardy right there. So another thing to really focus on is be sincere. Make sure those character traits are those that you're excited to share with. Something that you might not think is a strength could actually be that, but emphasize it, but without overdoing it. See? Apologize, I have a little bit of a holdback right here. My apologies. Again, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to definitely list them over there in the chat area. You also have my cell. It's 870-904-7669. There we go. The next thing to consider is including those numbers and figures. This isn't, well, it is a chance for you to brag, and that's completely okay. This is a rare quality that I see, but it's an impressive quality when I see on candidates' applications or resumes or anything like that. How exactly are you really telling me how you did? Give me some evidence. If you increased your homecoming dance, oh gosh, ticket tickets, numbers. Tell me about it. Did you help consume an entire state project and y'all went to state, and exactly how did you do that? Did you have anything to do that shows a quantitative figure? That's a big key thing that we can point out to it. We love statistical data, and especially it will make yours stand out and be polished along the way. Now, I don't recommend that you do what Reese Witherspoon is down in the bottom left and spray any sort of perfume or anything like that, or put it in pink or anything like so, but I need you to be creative with what you're doing. There's lots of different charts out there. There's unique things that, like I said, avoid just using Microsoft Word, that can really boost your entire look of your essay, of your resume. So it's just another thing to consider while you are making it along the way. It needs to be polished, but it also needs to make sense. So it's something that you can easily reference, especially when you're talking to someone within the interview process or anything like that. Adding buzzwords. Now, what exactly is a buzzword? That's kind of that trendy word that's happening right now. Kind of makes you feel a little smarter, anything of that capacity. Think of those trending words like a synergy or metrics or proactive or holistic. Some of those are nice to use, but at the same time, you need to really, really consider how much of that impressive vocabulary you're going to incorporate. But at the same time, I need to know that, is this really how you speak? Because that's really important. Because when I'm expecting you, I'm expecting the candidate that I see on this paper. So just be sure that whenever you're actually looking into all of these different ways of really emphasizing your area, that you use these buzzwords, these trendy business speaking words, that you're going to use these at discretion. This is one of my favorite slides. Now, this is where we leave absolutely no room for any errors. You can ask any one of my colleagues or any one of my personal friends and family members. I am huge about grammatical errors. It is very important that whenever you are looking over a resume, that you see absolutely zero opportunity for us to critique you. You don't want to eliminate yourself right off the bat because you misspelled something, or you added that contraction, or you just didn't pay attention to all the details after sharing that you were a very detail-oriented person. It just doesn't make sense. So I really encourage that you seek out someone that you trust, whether it be a teacher, a mentor, even a parent, a friend, anyone like that that you trust is going to provide really good, solid input, because sometimes it's really nice to get a second pair of eyes on it. Sometimes you might miss something along the way, and it's really valid opportunities for you to catch any critique. Maybe how you're seeing something isn't exactly how you wanted the reader to portray that or interpret it. So just something to consider. That is one of my biggest pet peeves when I'm looking at anything, and that is definitely any of those grammatical errors. Keep it simple, keep it approachable, and like I said before, make sure that you are talking in the way that you normally would. Emphasize a little bit, but you don't need to always trust that thesaurus. And again, you got to be ready to explain. You got to be comfortable expressing all these key points, and that way you have to really study. You don't need to memorize your resume, but you really need to know exactly what you put in on it, because you have to be comfortable with this. Set up mock interviews. Storytelling is huge. I use that from a recruiting standpoint, but also in an everyday life when you're building networks. People are really wanting to know how you got somewhere, just as important as what that is that you were doing. So whenever you're preparing for your interviews, make sure that you can go into detail on exactly what you put in. So that's really important, that you give yourself adequate time in advance to prepare for some of these things. The next area that I really want to go over is going to be some of the essay part. Now, I hit a lot on the resume aspect, but a lot of times schools, if they even require something like that, it might be for a specific scholarship or a college admissions paper or getting into a specific degree program. So not everybody requires a specific resume, but it's something you can build on. Same way with an essay. One of the biggest things you need to realize is you need to get organized. I know it sounds cliche, but the early bird gets the worm. When it comes to crafting these things, do not give yourself an overnight thing. Don't even give yourself a week or two. I'm talking several weeks, if not a couple of months out. Here you go. COVID is a prime example. We never thought we would be in this position, but you really have to prepare for something like this, especially when you're seeking those effective references. Do not, I repeat, do not go to your teachers the week of, of course, the day before to really try to get that sort of a resume that's going to stand out. It's not going to be helpful for you. You really want to process and have the teacher really examine exactly what type of a student you are, what type of person you are. We're looking for depth. We're looking for that character that stands out. You need to determine what to incorporate, whether it be a chart requirement and deadlines by school. That might be the easiest way to do it. Not every school has the same deadline. That's really, really important to consider. We all have our own deadlines, new criteria and everything. So chart it all out. There's nothing wrong with that. I even recommend putting it in order of when you're going to need things as well and decide where to begin. You need to work smarter, not harder, especially when you're creating multiple. While it may seem like an easy route to do to create one essay and possibly Xerox it out and do it to several, you got to make sure you get those details down. I have seen before where I've received the students information that was supposed to go to XYZ college, but it was addressed to me. So just keep action of those different details and always turn it in early. I don't ever have a problem with anyone turning something in that they once forgot to add. That's okay. It doesn't always work for everyone, but it doesn't hurt to really check based on all that. Brainstorming. Pick a topic that best suits you. Please, please, please avoid what you think you want us to read. It gets kind of boring over time because we're reading a lot of these things and we're looking for authenticity. So consider the important experiences. Sometimes those are uncommon. Sometimes they're unusual or a little different, but that's what makes it unique. Add some flair with some of these different things. You want to envision yourself on paper. So you want to select personal traits that you possess through specific situations. You want to narrow down your list. That's the third point that I'm trying to make. Write what matters to you. Keep it simple, but allow time for depth. I'm going to likely ask you to emphasize in some of those areas, but please don't incorporate something you think I want to hear. It's going to make it more interesting. Emphasize elements that are separate from your application. I also want to echo that back to those references. A lot of times I'm going to see students who put information on that I already see on an application. Give me something new. Share something new for me to learn about you. Reveal something that gives you purpose and makes you stand out. Now, whenever you're trying to narrow down your topics, that can be kind of difficult, but sometimes it can be kind of easy. When I say difficult, it might just not come to you until the day before, and that's okay. But allow yourself plenty of time and trust your instincts. You're going to know exactly what's going to make you be the one to stand out. At the end, you're going to need to clarify your delivery method. So whenever you're selecting your focal point, create some sort of a short story to open it up with. We don't need to know every single detail to create the entire scope so that we can visualize what you're trying to share. Either way, you need to decide what is important to include, and you need to tie it back to what you're doing right now that's enhancing your personal growth. In the end, you need to decide also a structure that works best for you. And when I mean that, you're going to establish a compressed narrative, or you're going to go back to a thematic approach. Meaning, are you going to build us up and are you going to have us really be on the edge of our seats waiting to see what happens next in your essay? Or are you going to bring it back every 3 to 5 points just so that we understand exactly where you're coming from as far as that angle? So these are really some important features. I guess you're seeing you might be seeing my dog right here helping out. These are some important features along the way that's going to help you with your essay as well as your interview process. This is going to be the big one, the why. Why are colleges asking some of these things, or what committees are looking for, and the how advice to prepare for in advance. I'm really, really a big believer that some of these can actually echo and fill into some whenever you're doing your college applications as well as your job interviews. So just take some notes. Again, this is going to be recorded to our best of our ability, and you'll be able to come back to it. So generally speaking, a college is going to say, if you're in an interview of some sort, if it's required, tell me about yourself. You're going to hear that, like I said, in a job interview. But this is why we generally want to know. I'm being honest. There's lots of times there's lots of applicants to narrow down, and some may have general features, but we want to know more about you. Avoid cliches and descriptions. Don't tell us what you think we want to hear, but make yourself memorable in some capacity. Whether you stand out, be energetic. You're going to be the one that sets the pace for the interview. The next thing is, why are you interested? Well, we need to narrow down those legitimate candidates. If you don't have a legitimate reason as to why you're interested, that's not going to be a really good thing. That's going to be more of a red flag for us. We need you to share what specifically drew your interest to the college. I don't need to know that this was, oh, it's because we had a 100% pass rate in this area, or it's close to home. Well, that's a lot of why people are telling us. Give me something different. What drew you to that specific major in particular? Or was there a cultural feel that the university provided that really made it stand out among other areas? We also want to conduct some sort of college research along the way. Again, you might be doing several of these, but you also need to know that sometimes you need to conduct a college research. You need to conduct college research to better prepare for these types of questions. You want to be sure you're explaining that particular campus and not another campus by complete accident. So look online, you can see what type of extracurricular activities they have, anything like that that's really going to make you stand out and make that answer a little bit better. Why did you pick your major? Well, you need to confirm academically that you have some goals in mind. You may not even know your major, that's fine, but we need to see there's some sort of a direction. We also don't want to see that you're some sort of a shallow personality or anything like that. Oh, I want to be a doctor because I want to make lots and lots of money. We don't need to know that. Was there a specific thing that drew you to that area? Is there a passion about it? Think deeply about this on why you're selecting this career field. It should be something that you're passionate about. It should feel like a niche. And that's the whole point of colleges, where you can actually create some of these different memories and network along the way and really realize, is this the path for me? Another way is they might ask you, how will you contribute to our campus? Guess what? When you're in an interview, a lot of times we are actually looking to see, could this person be a good representative for our university? There might be other programs like ambassadors on our campus. People, other leaders, orientation leaders that we're looking at already before you even enter, and that we want to keep an eye on you. And so we are really looking at things that make our campus and academic life better, and it could be you exactly through your contributions. I want you to ignore all those vague responses. Don't tell me it's because I can, how do I say it? I can contribute and I want to be a nurse, be part of your exceptional program. Okay, forget that. Be more detailed. What exactly can you do for us? Did you do something in high school that might help us enhance the program, or you saw something online, anything like that? And of course, we want to identify your college goals in some capacity, because this is a big thing. If we see that you're serious about your major, this is really going to make you stand out when it comes to other applicants, anything like that. Generally, we're going to get into a more specific area. We're going to start asking you what some of those strengths are and your weaknesses. This is kind of hard for some people to do, and for some it might be a little easy, but know right off the bat that you're going to need to, so that you're going to give us a perspective on areas that we see that you find to be excelled in. You need to discuss these ways and how you can capitalize on these areas as well too. So, one moment, I'm going to turn on that lamp for you real quick. My apologies. I know this is live and everything, but I know we were getting kind of dark there. So discuss the ways that you can capitalize on those strengths. And that's something that you're doing right now. Any of these strengths should be an investment for you. Don't think that, like, for instance, this is one of my biggest strengths. I can talk. But for some, that might be a weakness. But whatever you need to do, you need to turn around and make it into something positive. Learn how you originally recognized that this was a strength for you. Did you speak at a specific conference in school? Were you in UIL competitions in Texas? Were you involved in some way that helped improve these strengths, and you realized, I think I might want to go in that field, or I actually enjoy some of these things. So really try to identify those strengths. When it comes to the weaknesses, sometimes it might seem a little easier I know sometimes it might be a little harder, but either way, you need to visualize your persistence and your work ethic despite any of those challenges. That's something we really want to hear about is how did you overcome such weaknesses? Some could be intellectual, some could be physical, emotional, anything like that, and that's perfectly okay. Whatever it is, it's yours, and you need to own up to it because no one's perfect. You need to admit these strategies for improvement. If you found a solution on how you're going to address these weaknesses, that's even better. We love problem solvers in some way, so this is exactly what we're looking for. Whatever it is, don't be arrogant. Don't say you don't have any weaknesses because that's a bull-faced lie. We all have some sort of weakness. And like we said, it's maybe harder to admit, but that's the challenge in itself. You need to really seek out those things. Think about it in advance. Where do you see yourself in X number of years? This is something you never want to say, oh, in your position, the person that's interviewing. You never want to do anything like that. While you think that might sound appealing, it's not. You're basically saying, oh, well, I'm going to have your job. So avoid something like that. But you need to sense your direction. You need to share your motivations and whether they're personal or professional. And whatever do you do, it might be easiest if you just kind of paint a picture of how you see yourself in years. You know, whenever I was looking back at this, I actually saw myself becoming a coach. I thought by now I'd have a family. Graduate school wasn't even in my mind. So you're going to have different goals depending on what area of your life you're in. And so it's going to change over time. But right now, as an exiting senior, keep that in mind. Give yourself some time. Really dream. We want to see what direction that you're going in and how our institution can help you fulfill that. Who do you admire the most? Well, we're trying to gather your different priorities and values. If your grandmother or your third grade teacher was the one that you look up to the most, that's awesome. It could be a total stranger, it could be, but we kind of want to avoid using more trendy people who may not have the best impression on society in the best way. Now, if that's really true, either way, you need to pull it back into something positive. Emphasize those details about the individual. What makes them stand out? Or is it because they're passionate about what they do, how they treat people, or they've made it up the corporate ladder? Really emphasize those areas and be deep. It might even be helpful if you want to share with that individual because you might actually receive some sort of a response that can help you in your future interview areas because you'll actually be able to see, you know, they were really affected by this. I think that might make it a little bit better when it comes to that storytelling in the interview. Let's see. Again, if you have any questions along the way, we're almost done, guys. Trying to get to that next slide. Of course, it's acting up on me. So. Just try it like this. Thank you all for your patience. All right, that was that area. All right, we're going to think even deeper when it comes to that. So what obstacle did you overcome? Identify your willingness to work. That's a big key feature. Oh goodness, I apologize. It keeps sticking back. There you go. What obstacle did you overcome? Identify your willingness to work. This is big. Are you willing to step up when things get hard? That's a really key feature that I see in candidates or students who are interested in coming to our university. It's impressive to me. Another thing is to keep it relatable. We're all human. Share exactly how a solution came to be and consider how you learn from it and what areas it impacts in your life. Another thing that makes you unique. What is it that makes you unique? Discover what you value about yourself. And you know, again, I keep echoing back, don't include those things that you think we want to hear. Those things that you might think are a little weird or, you know, it makes you a little different from people. Those are the things I want to hear about. That accurately describes you. And you can brainstorm what most people are comfortable with, what you're comfortable with and what you're most proud of. Because at the end of the day, it's you that we're interviewing. We're not interviewing anyone else. The other thing is, how would others describe you? Again, this could be easy or it could be kind of hard to hear about. You want to acknowledge all your abilities to respond to a difficult question. I want to see exactly what your reaction is when it comes to it. And it's okay if you don't know right off the bat. And if you do, that's okay too. If you don't know, just say, hey, is it okay if I take a moment to further think about and come back? That's okay. You want to link your explanation to something positive. Always, always, always. Don't try and downgrade yourself in an interview. You're supposed to have that confidence and build it up. You also want to seek out close mentors and fellow peers for your authentic responses. I keep going back to that originality. If you don't know, ask a few people that you trust. Tell me, what's my best features? And make it more from a social aspect or from a leadership aspect, or kind of narrow it down for them. You may even want to ask them why, because that's going to better help explain whenever we're talking to the person who's interviewing you or the committee. What would you change about your high school? Now, I thought this was kind of a rare one to point out, but I have seen it before in some interviews. We want to know what type of educational background that you came from and what features matter to you. If it's a small class size, if it's that one-on-one intimate conversations that you have when learning with a teacher. Either way, you want to share respectful ways that benefit that student experience and personal growth. I was involved in the band there, but we didn't have enough instruments to go all the way around all the time. Our facilities were kind of older. It just kind of really affected some of how the students performed. And think about ways that this could be improved. I think this is a really key effort because you're considering specific issues and how not only can they be approved, but you're giving us a solution in some way. And it's really helping us learn about the recruits that we're aiming for, as well as what type of market our students are looking at when it comes to schools, as well as job opportunities, what type of resources we can provide for them, anything of that nature. Okay. All righty. How you feel after a great job interview? Well, nonetheless, you need to expect the unexpected. This right here ranks up there with my grammatical errors. You need to carefully review your social media accounts and monitor your email regularly. So this is something that you do not do the day of the interview. You need to do it long before. I guarantee you, we're going to kind of look out there and see exactly who Susie Smith is. We're going to kind of narrow down. If we know someone, we might talk to them. We want to see what you're portraying outside of that interview for us, because that's the real person. The character that you put out there is the one that we want to see right there. And you need to monitor your email regularly. I know it's a little harder for this generation, but it's something that you really need to take into consideration, because not only is that how we're going to follow up with you when it comes to your results of your interview process, but that's how a lot of the business world will communicate. Yes, we're going to text. Yes, we're going to do things like that. But one of the biggest and most common ways is through email. So make sure all your social media accounts are cleaned up. You don't want to put something out there that's negative. You don't want to degrade another place, person, or even yourself to your best of your ability. You also need to cope with anxiety in a healthy manner. This is a stressful time. It's natural to feel that way. But the other thing that you need to consider is that there are ways of doing that and really helping with your mental health, whether you're just breathing carefully or having a good night's sleep before. I know it's easier said than done. I've always been a big key thing on you need to have a banana before your interview, or some sort of fruit that actually sparks your intelligence again. We were told that in school, and that's why they always gave us that during our state testing. So be energized in some capacity. Take a walk, play some music, anything like that that's really going to set the pace for you, because you also need to show confidence as soon as you walk through that door. And one of the big things we're going to look at right off the bat is your wardrobe. Now, don't stress about something like that. We know that as a college graduate, you don't have tons of suits to look through, but you also have to realize we're not expecting necessarily a suit. Just if you dress up in some way, make sure it's clean cut. I really do encourage you to also wear the school colors. You don't want to wear the opposing team that's our rival or anything like that. When it comes to a job interview, you want to wear a power color, like red's a power color as well too. So keep that in mind when you're looking through your wardrobe. We're looking for clean cut, tucked in, iron, something that expresses you, but you could also talk with many different age groups, whether it be younger or older. Just keep that in mind when you're looking through your wardrobe. You might even want to borrow a family member's or someone from school. I guarantee you there's ways that we can help you out. You also want to arrive early. And that's not only just to sit there and make sure that you are good to go, because the longer you sit there, the more nervous you might be. But you want to arrive early, stop in the restroom, make sure that you have a parking space available. What if it starts raining? You want to be sure that you are prepared in all sorts of capacities that you never thought it would be, because if you arrive on time, you are actually late. They could actually begin your interview sooner than you thought. They could also do it later than you thought. So while you're there, make sure that you're not necessarily on your phone. You need to turn it off. You don't need to silence it. You need to put it away. But you can also go over some of your information that you have with there, because you need to provide printed and digital versions of your copies. Be able to pass it out to your committee members. Make sure it's updated. If there was something missing on it, you could have added something to that. It's perfectly okay to do anything. You need to set the energy and the pace of the entire session, and you do so through your body language, your tone, your eye contact. This is huge. If you sit in a swivel chair at the end, you don't need to just swivel back and forth and just kind of make noise at the end with your fingertips and constantly doing this. And watch your slang, listen to your tone, look in the eyes of the person who's asking the question, as well as acknowledging others in the room. If it's not during COVID, you can give them a handshake. I really recommend something like that if you can do it face to face. So these are things that's going to make you stand out. It's going to make you be that applicant that they're going to remember. And of course, you want to follow up with the interviewer in the end. Don't do it the next day. If you want to wait a couple of days, you're perfectly okay. Send them an email. I don't necessarily want to give them a call. It puts them in that position they weren't prepared for, but send them an email. They have a record of it. They can always go back to it. These are busy individuals. I promise they haven't forgotten about you, but whenever you follow up, it shows that you remain interested in the position, the candidacy of some sort of becoming a student into that program, or that scholarship that you might be trying out for. I know that I studied at the College of Business at my school. And I remember distinctively there was one time when I personally applied for a position in Nashville, Tennessee. I was the only girl to do this. And we did it actually through a phone interview. And I remember follow up with the interviewer. I didn't really know how to do that when I was 21, 22, other than just call them or email them. So I even did this route. I wrote him a handwritten note, and he was so impressed by that, I got hired by it. And so it's something he had never seen by it. So be genuine. Create those relationships and those networks from the start, and be impressive whenever you step in, so that when you leave that interview, you know you did the best that you possibly could. All righty, we are almost done. Thank you again for sticking around. All right, again, this is a note to yourself. The world needs you to show up today. You're powerful, you're valuable, and what you believe changes the world. In the end, this is only a certain time of your life. It's not the rest of your entire life. So just try your best. Give yourself a chance and really show that confidence that you need to impress those people, that you need to impress yourself and to prove to yourself and others that you are exactly where you need to be. And so when it comes to a resume, when it comes to an essay, when it comes to an interview, nonetheless, I want you to be authentic. And I want you to take advantage of those resources that you've had along the way through your education, through your mentors, through your personal life as well too. A lot of times we grow in those areas, not necessarily in the classroom. So I really, really, really want you to take advantage of those things as well. So nonetheless, that actually completes my presentation. And so are there any questions that anyone might have or anything along the way? I'll be happy to answer them. If you want to ask out loud, you're welcome to mute your mic and I'll be happy to address them. Again, this will be recorded for anyone to refer back to. And thank you for being with me along the way. I know we had a little bit of tech issues, and then I ran out of light and my dog walked in. You just roll with the punches. So it's definitely something we do on a day-to-day basis now that we are doing everything in COVID. So any questions whatsoever? Oh, thank you. Thank you for your sweet comments already coming through. Where can you find the recording? So it will actually be posted on the ArkACRAO Virtual College Fair website. But if you want me to actually send it to you directly, I have no problem doing that. You can actually email me. I'm going to put it right here in the chat. Apologize for my dog. She's like my child. Stepping in. Stop it. Let's see. You can actually send it, you can request that I send it to you directly through my email. Here it is. And then of course, it's Whitney Hall at saumag.edu. And like I said, it will be posted on the virtual website. Actually, any of these from the featured sessions, not necessarily the college ones, but the featured sessions that you see Monday and Tuesday and I believe Wednesday evenings. There was a few on Thursday right off the bat too. Any of those featured sessions that you saw will be there. Is there anything else that you would like for us to know? Ooh, that was big. Okay, so when I was in high school, I thought it would be best to be involved in absolutely everything, and I would stress all the time to the point that I got sick and very stressed out and lots of anxiety. And at the end of the day, I really want you to consider these things. One, those grammatical ones, of course, and allowing your extra time, but the things that you don't always think about. You know, those pages that go that extra mile, that turn in a little early, that to me is impressive because you're on top of the ball. Lots of times there's different tiers and awarding processes for scholarships or even for applicants getting admitted to the universities, anything like that. So start turning them in early. It really is. It's gonna be that way. Don't be afraid if we haven't reached out to you to touch base with us again. Even if you already did a follow-up, do it again. Again, it's showing you're adamant about the position, that it's really important to you. And then lastly, be prepared to just have some fun and relax. Again, it's easier said than done. When it comes to an interview, we can tell when you're tense. We can tell when someone else wrote the essay for you, or if you are doing it at the last minute or anything like that. All in all, we're looking for something that's different. Depth is really big whenever we're looking at those things, and I've always liked those stood out with the storytelling rather than repeating exactly what they shared to me on an application. So this is always a really good thing to do. So I think that's probably the couple of areas that I really, really, really want you to know about. And another thing is that whenever you're doing this for multiple institutions or multiple scholarships or anything like that, really, really, really pay attention to those details. And expect the unexpected. There'll be times when you might get that job or you might get accepted or things like that, but don't forget about crossing your T's and dotting your I's in other areas. You may change your mind at the last minute when it comes to picking a university or picking a major or anything like that. Give yourself some opportunity to really just think and sit back and find out what's important to you. At the end of the day, it's what's important to you. And so that's probably one of my biggest things is that you find out what works for you. So, great question. Anything else? Oh, any tips? Okay. I will actually. Are you interested in learning more tips about that university, or are you wanting? Are you wanting me to? I'll actually send you a private message as well. Okay, about that. But as far as standing out with specific colleges, again, everyone is a little different when it comes to that. One of the big things to kind of make yourself stand out, reach out to us. Send me an email, send me a text, something. Don't just wait for schools to campaign or to send their recruitment materials and reach out, because not only are you establishing yourself and making a name for yourself, but then we want to share even more with you. There's more than just those simple things that we can do. We can personalize it for you. You want to go on a tour to any school that you might be interested in. You don't have to bring like your resume and all that fun stuff on those things, but you really want to set yourself apart, and the institutions that you're really interested in. When they hand you a business card and you say, hey, I'll reach out, do it. we're going to remember that. In our mind, you're like, you know what, you're really interested, and you seem interesting to us as well too. So if you say you're going to do something, follow through with it. That's always really impressive from admissions recruiter standpoint as well. And so I'll definitely send you a personal message as well. Did you got my email as well? So send me a specific one. It's okay. What school are you with? Let's see. I can reach out. Any other questions? Awesome. If you think of any along the way, like I said, you've got my cell. I have it all the time. You can see I'm right here at home with my dog, my husband, anything like that. I thank you so much for joining this evening. I know it went a little longer than expected, but I want to be sure to get all of the information I possibly could out to you guys that can feel relatable in any capacity as well too. So we'll be in touch. You've got my email. You've got my cell. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining. You are so welcome. Good night, everyone.